Hello, everyone. We have a special guest this episode. It is the half of the Lion and the Cub duo from Detroit. It's our friend Phillip. Phillip, hello. How you doing?
Great, guys. Welcome. I guess I'm thankful to be back again. As always, love a kind of an off-season hangout, I guess, for us, right? This is kind of an
chilling,
odd,
odd
time.
No animosity today, Phil.
None, zero, literally zero. I mean, we've both been playing golf, kind of maybe enjoying a little bit of March Madness. We just got baseball, torpedo bats. That's kind of like the hot topic, but.
Yeah, the Brewers got scorched by those on the first. First game of the season. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, what a time we would have thought.
We thought we'd have you on for a little draft talk because last year the 2024 NFL Draft was held in Detroit. This year it's up in Green Bay at Lambeau Field and Titletown. So we wanted to bring you on to kind of share your experience and maybe even a little advice going forward in a few weeks when me and Ren, head up there ourselves. But before we get into it, just a little plug for you guys. You guys are a father-son team that likes to do live streams and even tweet, go on Facebook. So you can go out there if you want to, any Lions fans watching this, to check out Phillip and Dave, the Lion and the Cub. Here's some contact information and where to find them on the interwebs. But they stream events, right, Phil? You guys do a lot of streaming action?
Yeah. So more of our thing is definitely the live streams. Even if you're not a Lions fan, we still appreciate any company. So if you ever need anyone to just sit around and hang out with, we're great. You can check out all our past streams on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, and we're finally got to back on Facebook Live. That's where we saw a lot of our stuff. So yeah, it's a father-son duo. My dad is the Lion and I am the Cub, and we talk about your Detroit Lions. So excited, going for your fifth year. So
we enjoyed talking to you, Phil.
Yeah.
Maybe you root for the wrong team, but it's good fun nonetheless.
We all can't be perfect, so
that's true.
Well, looking forward to the Packers hosting the draft for us in Wisconsin here. We want to bring you on, but I guess, when did you find out that Detroit was going to host, I guess, and what was your initial reaction when that happened, and were you excited or scared?
It's so funny. I wish we were talking about sharing some photos. I have some when the NFL actually came 2 years before the draft date and did like a welcoming ceremony with Goodell and the team. And that's when I got to meet two of my favorite Lions, which was Jason Hanson and Lomas Brown. And Jason Hanson, greatest Lion of all time. He was there basically my whole life. He played only in blue, greatest kicker. But what's very funny is I think the first time we had heard about it was probably just saw it on Twitter, heard it with my dad, was pretty excited when they announced it. But this experience, this draft kind of like welcoming party, they built an archway in our downtown corridor that did a 2-year countdown. So this was 2 years before the draft. Jeez. We did a 2-year draft archway. And it kind of became this kind of a pretty funny thing about downtown, because other events would kind of start to promote and then it would go back to a draft clock. I mean, it really was literally like the St. Louis Arch that you would see, and it had an LED thing and it literally would count down. So it kind of became this funny thing about downtown Detroit, a lot of funny pictures, stuff like that. But yes, they did a 2-year like hyped up. Maybe it wasn't a full 2 years, but it just was a very odd thing to do. But it was super exciting. I think when they had announced, we knew that it was Vegas, then Detroit. And so that's kind of where we kind of plugged in, and that we said, hey, this is our 3rd year of the podcast. Let's go do one. Then we can do it here in Detroit. And then, if we ever want to go again, we can. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's going to be really fun for the city of Green Bay in that championship, or Lombardi, or whatever you guys call your fun little hub there.
It's called Titletown.
Sorry, I said TT. My bad.
We still have the most titles. The
that
NFL
is true.
Go back over 100 years. So Green Bay, Titletown. Yeah.
I'm just happy to be at the table. Just happy to be at the table. Okay. Just happy to be at the table. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, back in 22, when you went to Vegas, what did you do during that? Were you doing live streams? Were you kind of commenting on the draft?
So we had not done live streams until I think that. No, we did not do live streams. We used to do 2 shows a week back then, an audio podcast only. We would do what we used to call a pre-topsy and an autopsy because they weren't winning. So we would do a preview, and my dad called it a 36-game rebuild, and it's so funny because it's how it worked out. So literally, we started the podcast when Dan Campbell got hired, and the regime changed over. And so it was pretty funny to see it, but we did actually do a live stream from the draft of the second day because we were both gassed out, time change, long flight, delayed flight, flying, we were on a hey, we're not sponsored. So, we're flying on a budget, you're dealing with delays and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it was just kind of at its infancy, but it was Vegas was beautiful. Obviously, the weather's great. I suggest going to drafts where there's good weather. Probably not Detroit or Green Bay, but
it snowed last night here, Phil. So
it snowed this afternoon here. So yeah,
fingers crossed. I mean, we don't know what we're gonna get here in less than 3 weeks. It's a little bit terrifying.
We got plenty of time. It'll change in our favor. Don't you worry.
So they say.
So fast forward to 2024. When did you make the decision to go to the draft? Was it something like you always wanted to do, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this when you first heard about it, or was it kind of a later thing?
I think when you're just like a fan of football, it's always something you want to do. It's like going to maybe like a Heisman presentation if like one of your favorite players there, or it's just like kind of another thing that you do when it comes to sports. Like, especially where I'm located, we have Canton, Ohio. So I've always wanted to go to a Hall of Fame induction and also kind of like a Hall of Fame game. Same with us. We've always wanted to travel to every stadium. And so when me and my dad started doing the podcast, it became more of a, hey, let's do more things that involve just football. And like kind of one of the sicko things we can do is one of these more fans is go to a draft where it's, we don't know how these players are going to be, who's going where, you kind of already know what the first round's going to look like, but there's always could be something crazy happen. Like when we were in Vegas, the Lions had the second pick, they took Hutchinson, and then they traded up out of nowhere and took J-Mo, who had like just broke his leg. And, my dad, pretty typical, just like, what do we do? And I'm over here like, I don't even know what's going on, and there's, people running 40-yard dashes, kicking field goals, music, food. It was just just a lot going on. But yeah,
a lot for the senses. It sounds like. So when you're in the whole draft area, it's just like something here, something there. Like, can you focus? May you not? If you've got ADD, maybe it's not the place to be.
For sure. It's a sensory overload. It's definitely not for people who don't like crowds. It's not for the introverts. But I will say when it came to the Detroit one, it was like, man, this is your backyard. You hear about, I think maybe it was in Cleveland or something, or Chicago. You hear about these cities where they've happened. And now that the draft kind of started to move around, we kind of felt like it was like cool, again, being my hometown is just 45 minutes away. So, talking to friends, meeting up with high school friends and stuff like that, people you haven't seen, or just running into, again, people you haven't seen in years. It really brings the community together. But yeah, it's definitely not for somebody that isn't into crowds or, maybe doesn't like loud noises or isn't patient, because again, like that first night of the draft, it takes hours. It can drag, especially if there's trades. Everybody's got to do their own interview with the NFL Network, the ESPN, whoever, like everything kind of takes time. So I would, the first night is definitely for the theatrics, and then it becomes more of an experience of kind of enjoying the area and all the things that they've brought in to kind of zhuzh it up, versus like the draft itself, where like you can kind of enjoy more stuff versus it being kind of like a slog. I'll say the first night is definitely, depending on, where your team picks, regardless of who you're a fan of, because again, teams make trades and stuff like that. So
was that your attack plan then? Like for the draft was like first night, just get to the theater, watch the screens, like let's see what happens and enjoy that. And then did you do other things the next, day or something?
Yeah. So first day, especially, both times, it was like what's the line going to look like? How busy is this going to be? Like how packed is this going to be? And knowing that also there's a chance you could get on TV, it was more like, hey, for us, there was a Big Sean concert before like the actual draft started. So we went in, they serve, a bunch of food, alcohol, all that good stuff. So we grabbed a couple adult lockers, walked over to the stage, got a really good spot, and then kind of stood there. And then like it was kind of an afternoon thing. Our office was closed because it was right next door. So I got down there at like 2:00, I think. And as soon as the sun went down, it was like, then people kind of started to scatter. It got cold very quickly for us here in Detroit, but there were still sickos. Like I'll say, I showed a photo, but there were still, I mean, it was the largest draft. Every year is going to become the largest draft or whatever. But yeah, it was insane to see how many people were still packed in there. But yes, first day was like going, kind of getting a lay of the land. You can do all the fun, different stuff. They have so many different booths and stuff, but it was like, let's go see where this is going to be. Let's get a good spot. Let's enjoy, because it's the first round. You can see all the celebrities, all the people. Like somebody, I can't remember what. Oh, Ryan Day walked right through the crowd. Not really a good place for a guy like him to walk through Michigan, but people booing him. There's just people moving everywhere. So for us, it was right in the heart of downtown, which is a little different than the Vegas. Vegas was like in a large parking lot, so everything was kind of one big square. Where here in Detroit, it was like an L into a Z. It was a very weird setup, very long, a lot of walking, and it hit capacity on the first night. So I would suggest if you actually do want to enjoy it and not have to wait in a long line. I know somebody that waited like over an hour to get in on the first night. Getting there early on the first day, because again, that's where all the big names and all the stuff are. It will get to capacity, and they will, again, unless it's like terrible weather or something, fingers crossed again, not trying to bring it out there. But yeah, I would suggest first day is your day where you're going to deal with like delays and a lot of like tech issues and stuff like that. So
let me, if you may allow, let me ask you about security getting in and out.
Sure.
Was it pretty? I'm sure some people are concerned about security and how it is and how much they take that to the forefront. How was security and what were some of those like extracurriculars, from food trucks to things you found in Detroit? Because I think we're going to have a similar long corridor issue in Green Bay with back to Titletown from where the whole setup begins. It's going to be quite long. And how long were you there? You got there at 2, but when did you get home that first night?
So let's talk security. For us was super thick, very detailed. You went through metal detectors at all times when you were going in between NFL regulated things. I was credentialed, so like it was very nice for me. I could easily access some stuff, but I would say it's like a normal, just going with my friends through things. You did have to wait in lines. So I would expect. So how ours was set up, where there's like the main draft area, but then they had watch parties where you could do like open container in through different parts of the city. So the one that was like right next to the actual draft itself was very hard to go through, because again, you're going through security checkpoints at every entrance and exit. Obviously not as bad going out, but like I said, they went into a 1 in, 1 out policy. And so it did get kind of backed out. So again, if you don't like to deal with crowds, you don't want to stand a lot of places, I would double check to see. Some places let you bring in kind of a little, they didn't let us bring in chairs or anything, and there's not a lot of places to sit. So again, to sit and stuff, if you're bad, like that's why Lord Vader, my dad, he didn't come up to the one in Detroit. He stayed home. He's an old man, but and he's not here to defend himself, so we love that. But I will say that security wise, I never felt uncomfortable. It is downtown Detroit. We get a little bad rep for the city and stuff because of the history. I never felt uncomfortable. I would say it was a heavy present, though. A lot of like, watchtowers, police set up, a lot of heavy, they brought in, I would say, like a huge group of outside security. And it was nice. I didn't feel like there was any, what do I want to say? Like, they keep it very separated. Like where family stuff is very far away from like the draft, where you would see more alcohol being served and stuff. So again, if you're concerned from a family standpoint, I think they keep that, at least in Detroit, it was very separated. Like I said, Vegas was one big square, so it was kind of hard to see. But from, just the extracurriculars and stuff, some things that were super fun was like they will have like you can make your own trading card, like a Panini booth usually set up. You could do your own like photo and stuff. That's really fun. They send it like a digital one of that, where they also do player signing, so that's something cool. Obviously a lot of local cuisine, so it's always good like to try the different food trucks. So again, I would check that out. Sometimes they'll do a draft experience, so you'll like sign in on the phone. Again, sometimes the text's a little wonky, but you go to each booth and you have to scan it, and then you like complete something and you get a prize for that. So there's like a lot of like scavenger hunt, like they just are giving a lot of free stuff away. So like look into that, and then
they want you to be interactive with it sounds like.
Yeah, totally.
Stuff, just interact with our tech.
Yeah, you want to, sign stuff up. There was like Subway, like sub of, different famous Subway sandwiches that players had bitten out of and stuff, like, quirky stuff. There's the, like I said, back to the kids, like kids wise, or, just young adults or anything like that. There was like, punt, pass, kick kind of thing. They built like, I want to say like it's 4 full length kind of football fields where they would be playing like 4 different flag football games, like very much there's a good little mix of stuff for adults as well as kids. And then there's concerts every night, or there was for Detroit. So that's also a really fun part, was to just see kind of music, kind of enjoy downtown. And obviously the city was very packed up. So like, again, it was really cool to just see Detroit kind of all come together, do something fun, and it's free. So again, besides it hitting a capacity, it's a free thing to do. So, that's kind of my experience.
When you were talking about the capacity, I did hear that last year, that they were at, I think it was maybe the draft theater, or that area was like the capacity. And then they had to, I think, they said that this year, maybe it was the same last year with the app, right? So then on the app, it was like, we're at capacity, so everyone kind of knows. So then if you didn't make it in, they kind of gave you a warning, like, we're getting close to the capacity.
Oh, yeah. So they were sending a crazy ping notifications like, hey, everybody, we're getting very close to filling. Or, they also had a lot of like, for us with it being downtown in the city, they like would like chop it off. And so there was like little hubs around the main thing, so that when they did hit capacity, it's like, you can still be part of the experience, because they would have like huge TVs, and then there would be like ESPN would be set up in one of those hubs. So then they're doing their live show with special, you know what I mean? So they kind of, I think they knew it would hit capacity because of the location. So they did a really good job with preparing for that. It's still like, I left, for example, the first night, like after the first pick, like first, second pick, I was out because one, like I had parked right downtown. So I knew traffic was going to be crazy. But again, I'm pretty sure it took almost like 50 minutes for like the first 2 picks. And I was like, no winter jacket. I was not prepared. So again, like it got way too cold. So being failure to plan is planning to fail. So, one of my biggest regrets, but it was hot out, or, the sun, the sun went away and it got very cold. So again, I would just prepare, double check the weather, because again, that no amount of a booze jacket could have kept me warm that night. So yeah, it was
nice.
It was wicked.
So you're saying you took off after the very first pick, number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
So, because I was going to ask you, where were you, or what were you doing when the Detroit Lions picked at 24? I think it was Arnold. They picked Arnold up. Which was way later in the draft than Detroit's used to, right? In the 20s. I mean, here.
Yeah, I was at my local pub having a nice cheeseburger for like $6 and doing like dollar beers. You know what I mean? That's the thing, is like, you're paying for like festival or fair prices. This is, again, it wasn't for us. I don't think it was, that's what you have to kind of expect, right? But again, they're big drinks. So at least, you're getting a little big, but they get warm faster if you're not, I don't know. So again, just prepare for it's definitely an experience for sure. And they do cool stuff. Like they did, the Lions had just introduced new jerseys. So the only way to get those jerseys was at the draft experience. So, something like that, or, they have NFL specific, like a draft merch space, if you want, if you're just a fan of the draft, you just want, hey, Green Bay, pretty unique stuff like that. If that tickles your fancy, but that was really cool for us. It was like this place opened at like 10 a.m. on the first day, and they had like a huge line because they were all stitched and stuff. They were super nice. So yeah, it's pretty unique.
Tay's a merch guy, so you might be bending his ear there.
Yeah, see, exactly. He's a fan of I'll just say that, I know that stretch there when you're walking into Lambeau, there's usually all those little like booths set up. When me and the old man went to the game, he stopped at like everybody got a $20. He was like, donations, anybody. We had a really nice time before the game, and I'll just never forget walking down that long path to Lambeau, and there was just little booths set up. So yeah, just a great time. We had a great time, great fans. We also sat inside, so I don't call us how we want.
That's not quite the experience, but next time you got to do the real thing in late December, Phil.
Yeah, well, I think I can do that. When the old man was, that was 5, 6 years, 7 years ago. I was still, a little broke college kid. So, he didn't want to get cold, and that's fine. Hey, listen,
it's a handicapped. I know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Hey, there's an asterisk next to my visit, no doubt.
Yeah, you got to do the real thing, and at some point here in the next 10 years, we're going to be the last open air NFC North team. So, you have to experience it. So,
when we talk about numbers, they said that. I mean, maybe they know for certain, but they said something like 775,000 people were there over the 3 days, and they kind of use that 3-day total all the time. They don't really say anything about individual days. Obviously, Thursday was a big draw in Detroit. Up in Green Bay here, they're projecting 240,000. But they also say that the
total.
Draft,
wait, total?
Yep, total projected 240,000. So
it went down from I want to say 3 months ago they were projecting 500. So
really,
I don't know if this is just the pre-registrations that have made them drop their numbers.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Potentially that's playing a part, no doubt.
And they know I think that's where they're getting their numbers is this app, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they pumped that thing like. Oh yeah, I might even still have it on my phone. I can't even lie.
It's a 3.1 star rated NFL.
Oh yeah, it's one of the worst rated. It's one of the worst. It sucks, man. I can't lie. It sucks,
but you got to have it. It's your key to enter.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it really is. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, but that's crazy. 200.
But they're also saying that the Green Bay draft campus is doubled in size compared to the Detroit one. So hopefully things are spread out.
And that's awesome.
I don't, who knows when people are going to go. I think we're going to try to hit up first day, second day for sure, maybe even the third, just because it might be just a hell of a lot of fun.
Is it Thursday, Friday, Saturday again?
Correct.
Yep.
That's the one thing I didn't like personally, but.
Okay. Honestly, I think that based on the Green Bay community with how family oriented it can be at times and families want to do things, I think Saturday is going to be really well attended from a different aspect of a crowd. So could be really cool on that day. And like you mentioned off mic, we were talking about you being in Vegas and you were not in Detroit for day 3, correct?
No, we did not do day 3 in Detroit. No.
But you did mention day 3 in Vegas.
Or maybe
you could get into the draft auditorium. You could access was pretty much kind of free to everybody that last day of the draft, which might make it enticing for those that are maybe going to watch this. The throngs of fans here that are going to tune into this episode. But that might be of interest to them to say, hey, we can still go have a great time. The nice thing is if we get a 60, 65 degree day, it's supposed to be 60s this weekend here. Day 3 is the middle of the day. Families can go down and have that different experience and really get close and intimate by the sounds of it, right, on day 3?
Yeah, I would say there's 2 different ways to look at the NFL draft. You're a diehard sicko. You're a big fan of football. You want to be there for, you want the glitz and glamour. You want the Hollywood experience. That's day 1. You go to day 1. You do a 10 to 12 hour day there and you have a great time. That I think is the one side of the NFL draft. And I think the other side is, hey, this thing's in my city. I like this team. I don't really, I don't follow the team a lot, but would it be fun kind of hanging out in my city, doing fun stuff. Let's look at the activities. Let's go do the stuff. That's what like a Saturday is for. Even day 2, we went for a little bit. it was still more packed than day 3, obviously, but because a lot of people fly out and stuff by that, again, a lot of the glitz and glamour is kind of gone, and it's more of just like, this is kind of a cool, I don't want to call it like a state fair vibe, because I think that that's like doing a discredit to what the draft is, but it definitely has that more, like you said, there's a lot more family fun oriented stuff. They definitely pushing, you got like local celebrities up there calling the picks, and like that's when they're flying in all the fans to do the picks. It's a way more like laxed version of the draft, I'd say, like where it's like you don't feel like, again, it takes away that Hollywood aspect of the draft. It makes it more just kind of like a cool thing that's happening in your city.
Yeah, kind of like it used to be before it got really big and out of hand. I mean, we had it on Saturday only, and it was like that was it wasn't the big, pageantry that it is now, for sure.
Yeah, they know how to market this stuff. We sure all have bought in and hook, line, and sinker as far as the sickos still are concerned.
No, and it's cool. Like I think one of the coolest parts about the draft is meeting the other sickos, or just seeing the other sickos. You see these super fans on Twitter, or X, on ESPN, on the gram, just different places, and you go, well, I wonder what this person's like in person. Well, guess what? You can find out. You can you without a doubt, the crazy guy in the Raiders uniform, even you even get your local, like, kind of like niches and stuff like that. Again, I think with it being on Thursday in Detroit and being in downtown Detroit and everyone being back in the office by that time, it's what really pumped our numbers on that first days, because people were like, well, there was 2 options. It was like either A, you're in downtown Detroit, or B, you're in the suburbs. Like you either came down or you didn't. But because it was right there and so many people parked there and stuff, it was like, well, I'll come down early, Uber back, whatever. That's what I think really helped pump our numbers, is like it was right in the heart of downtown, and a lot of people are pretty close and knit like that. Again, title TT, that's not really like a local, like, you know what I mean? It's a very small, we're doing, definitely. Timeout on hate. Thank you, Shaq. But I think that's probably maybe why the numbers have lowered. And again, it's not, it's kind of just the Packers, and then it was became, my memory serves me correct, it's kind of country, and then, it's just kind of like Packer Stadium, and then you kind of went on your way. So
it's a little bit like that. It's the greater Fox Valley, Green Bay area is, pretty big metro area, but it's certainly not. It's not Detroit, Michigan, going over to flow into Toronto area. No.
Or Vegas. They're like, a New York, even Cleveland. Like, it's a very tight. So like when they had the draft, or even Chicago's like another good one. You know what I mean? Those are like cities where it's like known to be. What I think is awesome though is, like we were talking about before, is like probably never going to happen again in your lifetime, but at least you got to do it. You know what I mean? At least you've got to experience it. It's kind of a historical thing too. The Packers, I'll say something nice about the Packers. They're a historic franchise, and they have history. And I think it's important to embrace those kind of things. And maybe, this is a good education opportunity for someone like me who's only gone to Green Bay for a game once, but like, you know what I mean? From other people that'll never get to Green Bay, I think it shines a little spotlight. And what it did for the city of Detroit is it showed that we're more than just, the headlines, and, we do have this motor city, this grit. Like, the team really reflects the way that the people are. And when it comes to our teams, we show up and we show out. So, I think it's really important that these historic teams get a chance. And so it's sick, that it's going to be in Green Bay, and that you guys get to do something like this again. It's it truly is kind of like a once in a lifetime thing. So
totally. And that's what I hope it is for a lot of people, is like a pilgrimage, finally, a reason to go. And I think every city that's hosted has, a different area that they're doing it in, different vibe for the city. And Green Bay is obviously different, and it will be its own thing and experience with bookends on it, and hopefully we get it one in the future, but I doubt it. But I think it will go over well. I think it'll be different and unique versus any of the other cities.
So it's in what, about 3 weeks?
Yep.
Do either of you guys stay kind of in that area, or like maybe like from like the airportish area or anything? I'm just curious if you guys have noticed any changes. Like, what was really cool for me was like them starting to hang like different stuff on like the light post, and like you just kind of felt this kind of like, you know, this change in the air where it was like a week out, things started to change and roads started to close, and then it was like, you know what I mean? It kind of got this. I didn't know if you guys had seen anything like that or not.
Well, that's happening. You're getting some road closures. They're building the stage right now. They started, I think, late last week on the stage itself. But they're doing road closures, and that'll happen continuous, like in succession over the next couple of weeks. But not, I bet you, to the extent that Detroit did, because they had they had blocks and stuff throughout all the buildings and stuff. They had to kind of navigate with the closures and stuff like that. But this one is, you know, there's only a couple main streets that they're going to block off, and, you know, they're telling people to come in different ways. So we won't see a lot of that until closer to the draft. We live, you know, in the, I guess, the Fox Cities area. Ren and I do. We're not seeing anything down here that can indicate that.
And we're only 35 minutes south of Lambeau. So.
Okay.
But if you were working, like you were kind of near downtown Detroit, if you were near Lambeau Field working, you would feel the impact for sure right now.
That's crazy.
And going forward. So
how far along is the structure? That's like one of the craziest things I thought, because again, like I walked through an archway from my garage to my office, and like literally I watched like the structure was being built like every day right next to me as I walked in and out. And so it was just like crazy, and then just how quick it was gone. It was like 3 weeks setup, gone in 60 seconds. I mean, it's just so cool. It's so unique how this big of a ship just gets plopped into your city, and then it's like gone, dust, and it's of course,
the NFL, man,
oh yeah, trust me, I mean, they were in my office building for the whole month. I'm sure that didn't cost for privacy to have out entire floors. I mean, that's just. I mean, NFL's king. That's why we got 3 games on Christmas this year. So
100%. Yeah,
it's crazy.
You know, it's gonna be a nice showcase of this little podunk small town. You know, only city-owned team in all professional sports, and it's a Packer fans are prideful fans, and we just want to show off our little close-knit community here, and what it is like to be the best fan in the world. So.
Did you like the draft, Phil? Did you think that experience was like a good one? And then did your plans for the draft come to fruition? Did what you did, was that your plan?
Oh no. I'll say one thing. The draft is fun. I would say it's maybe a 1-2 day max. A 3 if you're doing all 3 days, you are beyond a sicko. I think you can prepare for it all you want, but that's the nice thing about it being over multiple days, is that whatever I didn't do on day 1, I just took care of on the second day. So, to me, it was like everything kind of worked out great. You got to, I met so many Lions players those couple of days. I mean, again, just people kind of hopefully, people buy into the city and you can just have a really great time. But yeah, I would say, 2 days is probably a good enough, especially if you do just want to kind of see more. It gives you a chance to spread out. But yeah, the draft is fun. It's something you'll probably never kind of experience again, because they don't do nobody goes to the NBA. The NFL draft is like one of the only true spectacles left when it comes to like a preseason
prospect primer.
I mean, you just don't. I mean, you even have people that go to like the combine. Again, like the NFL has a very big accessible experience kind of thing throughout the year, and so as long as they keep touring it around, I think if it's within an hour or so, I definitely would at least go for a day for sure. I don't know if we'd fly again unless it was, listen, I'm not going to Green Bay. I'm going to tell you one thing. I ain't flying to Green Bay, not for the draft. I'll fly for a game for sure. I love the city for a game. But again, it's the draft. I would, if it's April, I'd like to be in, Miami. Let's go to Miami. You know what I mean? So I think we could both agree there. So, but I hope
it's wrong. It could be 82 and sunny here, Phil. You might be
hey, and I hope I'm the one that's just jinxing it in your guys' favor. You know what I mean? So again, let me sprinkle my Lions juju on your guys so that you guys have the best of weather, because it did rain one of the days here in Detroit, and that kind of really killed one of the days for it for sure. So
I know you weren't thinking, this while you were there, but what was your impression of like how many people were Lions fans or Michigan residents versus other people that came in? Could you tell like who, like what the split was? It was like more Detroit Lions fans than not. I mean, obviously it was, but
yeah. So I guess, like, not to sound like snarky, but like they're usually wearing the other team's stuff, so like it would spark a conversation. So I would be like, see someone in a Patriots jersey, say, "Hey, are you from New England?" And they'd be like, "Oh no, I'm just from, I live in Michigan." Or it would be like, "Yes, I am." I would say kind of like somebody just wearing a jersey or a t-shirt is probably like a local person versus somebody that's wearing like an outfit. That's how you're going to tell. I would say if I would have to split it between like non-Detroit residents or like non-greater Metro Detroit area and like out-of-staters. See, because we're so close to. So the thing about Detroit and the draft is we have like Cleveland, Cincinnati, Green Bay, Chicago, Indianapolis, like all within like a 4 or 5 hour drive. So we saw I saw so many Browns, Bengals, Packers, Colts, Ravens, Steelers, like fans that said, "Yeah, I did the drive." So it was I would say maybe 60-40, 65-35, like
that's a lot.
Detroit residents versus outside. I talked to more people that drove than flew in because, again, Detroit, when we were in Vegas, so many people flying like in and out that definitely weren't from there. But again, Detroit, I'd say it was like a lot more of like drove in from out of the area for sure.
Yeah, and the people coming to Green Bay would have to like round the corner through Chicago to drive.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's nothing worse than that.
And I think you make a great point in how close Detroit is to so many metro areas where we're Green Bay is just tucked up on this little thumb area, and it's a problem. Other than anybody coming from Minneapolis or Chicago, it's going to be a much longer drive in. So that's certainly going to limit that kind of driving aspect. Indianapolis, maybe you could include some folks, and obviously Nashville, 7 hours away with the number 1 pick in the draft. But other than that, I think that the contingencies, like you're mentioning, based on, the locale of Detroit versus Green Bay is going to be massively different.
Yeah, maybe you'll get some. You're pretty close to those neighbors up north. We had a lot of neighbors from up north in our area, definitely during the draft as well. Especially like it literally was on the riverfront, like you could see Canada from some of the draft experience. So, it just really depends. I've done that drive from Chicago to Green Bay, so I know how it is. I mean, again, it's just, do you get people from like St. Louis? Well, the Rams I was like St. Louis. There's no Rams. I'm like trying to like think of like, what other major cities would be. Yeah, that's really it.
Chicago, Indianapolis. That's really about it. I mean, obviously you got the upper peninsula of Michigan. The Upers are almost all Packer fans.
Yeah, that is true.
And then Superior blocks off all of Canada, so they'd have to come down and around or from Toronto through and back around. So well, hey, it's going to be your guys' like little thing. That's it almost makes it a little more unique. Maybe you won't have to deal with some. Again, there was a part of my friends, a very lot of people there, a very lot lot in Detroit. Like they said, it was like. You call that a shitload? Is that what we're? All right.
Did you know that Detroit is a French word that means straight because it was the straight or something like that? So I just found out. I did 313 day. I did a bunch of research. Anyways, but yeah, a shitload of people. And so hopefully maybe it's a different experience with, I don't think the amount of people took away from my experience, but I know it did. I had a lot of very frustrated friends that were like, well, they either say you have a ticket or like, what I mean? That doesn't, it's nothing like that unless you literally physically paid for like a seat within that thing. It's a free, they make you sign up through that app so that they can get this information, steal all your data. But yeah, I think again, 60s and better, and you guys will have a blast.
Did you you sent me a picture to show? This is your picture taken in Detroit, right?
Yeah, so this is the first night. Our parking garage, that's from like the 6th or 7th floor of our parking garage. And so where kind of where the photo cuts off to the left, that would be the draft theater and over. So this was literally everybody outside of the draft theater.
Wow. Okay, I see. Yeah. Because back to the left is the stage.
Yep, to the left is the stage, and to the right was that was the GA area. When I went early in the day, I was probably a little bit close towards right where the entrance of the draft theater was, and then slowly kind of slithered back as the draft picks happens. And like I said, I was out of there after number 2. So
everyone use their imagination here. I'll show a rendering that they put out of the Green Bay Theater. So take all those kind of people and you put them into this. This is the rendering they got, and on the far left you can see the stage. With the area in front. And that's where they're going to have those people there. In your picture will be there.
That looks
interesting.
That's very interesting too, because ours looks like kind of more of a rectangle box theater. Mm-hmm. Ours was this big I don't know,
dome or something.
Yeah, huge dome, sphere looking kind of.
Watch out!
It was weird. Yeah, I don't know. I'm over here banging everything in between. So, that looks cool. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, it's right around the stadium and everything. That looks very. How long is that? You think what is that, a mile and a half?
I would say it's a good half mile.
Okay.
Right the top of the stage down to the bottom. That's part of Titletown there.
Perfect. And then way on the right. Yep.
Around the stadium to the east there. So kind of going. Actually, I shouldn't say east. That goes to the south there. So you got top to bottom. And then,
are they doing stuff in the stadium? Do you guys know?
I was just going to bring that up. That's one thing I don't know about, and maybe everyone can chime in about. Obviously, this rendering has it empty, but I mean, I don't think they'll have people in there. They'll have the atrium open, but I'm very curious to see if they let anybody into the bowl itself.
I would imagine there's something planned for that, at least. Using half the field. Could that be where some of the live music is? I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Hard to say, but I would guess. I mean, you want to showcase Lambeau Field throughout the part of this, so
for sure.
I'd be shocked that Lambeau is not somehow integrated to this whole process.
Well, Phil, we really appreciate you coming on. We just wanted to have you on a little bit. Do you have any parting, advice for us? Or I mean, you've covered a lot, so I really appreciate it. But any advice for us or any other Packers fans heading into the draft this year?
Prepare for the weather. Prepare your bank account. And just kind of maybe, you know what? Here's my challenge for you Packer fans out there. Go meet a fan from another team and let these two, Tay and Ren, know how it was and if it was, your experience or not. I'm very curious though to see what it kind of looks out for you, especially just that rendering. I'd be very curious how, it lays on it. It looks like, again, like I said, they have those football fields in the back there. That's where, like I said, a lot of the family stuff is. And, just it's something unique. It's something you probably, like these guys said, you'll never do again. So go and enjoy it. Have a good time. Have fun. Do it for football. It's just about football. So have fun. Yeah.
Love it.
And Phil, we'd be remiss. Obviously, we appreciate you having Tom on and appreciate your time. And but it's been a little bit of a tumultuous offseason with Detroit Lions not winning a playoff game. Phil, I understand that was tough, and
it sure was.
Obviously a little bit of a brain drain with the offensive defensive coordinators there. How you feeling moving in? Obviously, I would still say the front runner in the NFC North at this point. You can't take the crown off until they lose that. But how are you feeling with your Detroit Lions at this point before we get to the draft?
It's been an interesting offseason. You lose both of your, co-captains, and that's going to be an interesting thing. Until Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes give me a reason to not trust them, I am beyond locked in. I think about the Lions every day. I think about that loss probably more than I would like to admit. I'm really just excited for the opportunity to do it again. This team has the potential to be great and, write historical things for this franchise. But the rest of the conference has gotten a lot better. I think I would be ignorant to not admit the fact that this is going to be probably the best conference in the NFL on paper, especially the additions that your team has made, the Bears has made. Who cares about the Vikings? But, they're still going to be good, or, maybe they'll find someone that can't throw the ball. Who knows? What it comes down to, though, I think for the Lions is that, they've got to beefing up that defensive line, get somebody who can really help Aiden. And I mean, if you hopefully it's plug and play with the coordinators. I want to be optimistic, but I'm a Lions fan. So,
and how is Dad doing with all that?
Oh, he's good. He's just more sad Tigers not playing in the Masters. You know what I mean? My dad's kind of, actually, it's been
moves on.
It's kind of, with him, he's done it forever. So it's not like it. I think what's been more fun is actually the Pistons. We used to be like really into the Pistons growing up, and they're having they're having the greatest turnaround ever in NBA history. So that's been fun. And the Red Wings are maybe somehow going to squeeze in here, and the Tigers are back. So it's been kind of fun to just kind of talk other sports, but literally every day we talk something, because something happens in the NFL. So the Lions definitely get talked about almost every day. So awesome. Yeah, just no show. We're both taking a little break. So this has been a nice kind of like refresher even for me to hop on, share my voice. It's always fun to talk to people. So I appreciate you guys having us on and giving us the shout outs and stuff like that, and always look forward to the battles. So
yeah, we do too. We do too.
2025 as well.
For sure.
So again, we got Phil here joining us. He's the Cub half of the Lion and the Cub. They do streaming during the season, and sometimes, maybe during off season. We'll probably do like a post draft kind of show. Maybe, we always try to do a little stuff, and then we probably see us maybe a month or so, but we're always active on the X. So if you want to talk to me or the old man, please come. We're always active there. That's definitely where you can catch us in this off season. So awesome. Well, thanks, Phil, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate having you on, Phil. Thank you very much on a Monday.
Yeah, always. Anytime.